What is up, everybody? It's Animac here for AnimeUproar, and we have finally received official news about the Code Geass sequel Fukkatsu no Lelouch or Lelouch of the Resurrection, including the release date. But as excited as you might be after over a year and a half of waiting for any real news about the sequel, trigger warning, it's not all good news. As the official Code Geass website and various other news outlets are reporting, the sequel will not be a full third season, but rather just a single movie that will be released in February of 2019. When the sequel was first announced back in November of 2016, it was presented as a third chapter in the story. So knowing that Code Geass had 2 seasons, which were the first 2 chapters, most assumed that this new third chapter would be a full third season. However, it turns out that even though the sequel will be officially released more than 2 years after it was first announced, meaning that there was plenty of time to create an entire new season, all we are getting is a movie. But it's not all bad news, because this movie will indeed include brand new material and a continuation to the Code Geass story, so fans are getting new official content. And if this movie does extremely well, who knows, maybe a new season will be greenlit once they realize that there is a lot of money to be made. Similar things have happened in the past. In addition to the first PV that was released over a year ago, we just received a new short teaser for the sequel. A teaser which features some captivating shots of landscapes. It's Australia, we all know it, and we also see a brief glimpse of C2, along with what appears to be a brand new character. If you've been following our videos here on the channel and also our discussions on our Discord server, you know that for a long time we've believed that the plot of the sequel will revolve around discovering more about the true origins of Geass power. My good friend Solmaka in particular has been saying for a long time that the brief scenes we see of Cornelia visiting ancient temples in the original PV for the sequel are evidence that she has been trying to research Geass in order to clear her sister Euphemia's name after what happened in the original series. And we all know that the world of Code Geass is fascinating, and there is a lot more going on there than might appear at first glance, as I already talked about in many of our Code Geass videos. For example, I believe that the thought elevators and the collective unconscious from the original series were created by an ancient civilization known as the Ragnares, and the power of Geass originated with this ancient civilization. This new character that we see in the teaser definitely looks a lot different than the rest of the characters in the series, and we even see some lines on the character's face that look a lot like the lines on the faces of the ancient Geass users that we see in the Geass sequences or flashbacks, however you want to call them. So my guess is that the new plot will be centered around discovering the origins of Geass and the ancient civilization known as the Ragnares who first constructed the thought elevators. This new character might be a descendant of this ancient civilization, and he or she might be trying to protect the secret of Geass from being discovered. Since I personally love the interesting world that Code Geass establishes, I am definitely excited about the prospect of learning more about Geass power and its origins. And since I always believed that Lelouch survived being stabbed by Suzaku at the end because he had obtained code from Charles and became immortal, and I even made videos on this, I could easily get on board with this sequel. Even though obviously I wish we were talking about a full season rather than a movie, because it is extremely difficult to follow up on a 50-episode iconic anime with a brief movie sequel. However, as I said, if the movie is successful, who knows what could happen. My big problem, and yes, there is a problem, is this. The 3 recap movies that came out in the past year were not just recap movies. I wish they were, but they weren't. Usually I don't pay attention to recap films at all because I feel such films may be good in terms of getting someone who hasn't seen the anime interested in watching it, but after watching the anime, seeing a movie trying to condense the story you love is just torture, in my opinion anyway. I don't know how you guys feel. But with these Code Geass films, there have been some major changes to the story, and I don't mean just cutting out parts of the story because of time constraints. I mean things like changing the fact that Shirley shot Valletta in the original series in order to protect Lelouch, to Diethard shooting her instead of Shirley. This is a ridiculous change in my opinion, because while I love both Valletta and Shirley, shooting Valletta was a crucial moment of character development for Shirley. She is a kind and innocent person, a person who doesn't want to harm anyone, but her love for Lelouch leads her to do things that she could never have done otherwise, and that is such an important aspect of her character. But if changing that wasn't enough, Shirley doesn't die in the recap movies. She is still alive and present as Emperor Lelouch is stabbed by Suzaku in the Zero costume at the end of the story. Like, what? This means that the creators of Code Geass have established an alternate timeline with the films. A timeline that doesn't match up with the original story. If you want to know more about the changes in the recap films, I will link to a Fox and Anime video in the description. He did a good job of going over everything, so there's no point of me repeating it here. But needless to say, these changes have really upset me. Not because I want Shirley to be dead, I love her as a character and her death was for me the single most heartbreaking moment in the entire story. I am upset because I consider the creation of an alternate timeline to be a total cop-out. It means that Fukkatsu no Lelouch will not be a true sequel to the original story we love. Instead, it will be an alternate what-if scenario that we can easily just ignore. Now, I can understand how a show like Steins Gate that is based around time travel and alternate timelines can make a sequel like Steins Gate Zero, but to do that to a completely different show like Code Geass feels wrong to me. It's basically saying, hey, if you like the sequel, great, but if you don't, then just pretend like it never happened, and that's not how a writer should ever approach their own story. And I know what you're thinking. But bro, you were so hype, why you no longer hype? Well, random person from Denmark, I will still give the sequel a chance, and if it is popular, I hope that an entire series will come out of this. But if we do get a series, I want it to follow the original, not be some alternate timeline. If as a writer and a creator you have the courage to create a sequel to an already beloved and established work, then you should have the courage to make it a true sequel and not a what-if scenario. But that is my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Are you still excited for the Code Geass sequel, or has the alternate timeline stuff soured it for you a bit? Let me know down in the comments. You don't have to agree with me, I completely respect different opinions. If you want to discuss the sequel, feel free to join our Discord server, link in the description. The entire server is set up as a tribute to Code Geass, and there are many hardcore fans in there that you can talk to. To stay up to date on all the latest Code Geass info, be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!